Why you keep getting used. 5 hidden psychological lessons from the shadows. In the quiet hours, when the screen finally darkens and the notifications cease, many of us sit with the same uneasy question. Why does it keep happening? Why do I find myself used, overlooked, emotionally drained, or quietly manipulated? Again, it is rarely because the world is full of evil people. More often, it is because something in us remains unseen, unguarded, or unconsciously willing to pay the price for connection, approval, or peace. These patterns live in the shadows of the psyche, the parts we do not want to admit exist. Tonight, in these faded pages, I have recorded 5 ruthless yet deeply human lessons drawn from the old strategies of power and survival. Not to turn you cold or calculating, but to illuminate the hidden mechanisms that allow others to use you, and, more uncomfortably, the ways you may unknowingly allow it, or even do it to yourself. These are not quick tricks for dominance. They are mirrors. Look into them gently. The discomfort you feel is the beginning of freedom. Lesson 1. The cost of excessive transparency, calculated opacity. We live in 2026, a time when oversharing feels like connection. On LinkedIn, we post our career struggles for authenticity. In group chats, we vent every frustration. In dating apps or remote team meetings, we reveal our fears and hopes too quickly, hoping it will build trust. Yet, the shadow truth is this. When you make yourself fully predictable and fully known, you hand others the map to your weaknesses. People who use others do not need grand schemes. They need patterns. They watch what you share, what triggers your guilt, what makes you eager to please, what you fear losing. Once they know these, they can pull the strings without you ever noticing the tug. In modern remote work across the US and Canada, this plays out daily. You stay late on a project because a colleague casually mentioned their heavy workload and how much they appreciate your help. You agree to extra tasks because you already told the team how important collaboration is to you. Slowly, your boundaries dissolve and resentment builds. Not because they are evil, but because you gave them the keys to your availability without realizing it. The hidden pattern here is often rooted in childhood. Many of us learned that being open, helpful, and emotionally available earned love or safety. In adulthood, that old survival strategy becomes the very thing that leaves us exposed. True protection does not require lying or becoming secretive. It requires calculated opacities, leaving intentional gaps in what you reveal. Share what serves the moment, but guard the deeper motivations, the full extent of your vulnerabilities, and your long-term plans. When you practice this, something shifts. Others can no longer assume you will always say yes. They can no longer predict your reactions. You regain quiet control over your own narrative, the uncomfortable admission. Many of us overshare not to connect, but to avoid the anxiety of being misunderstood or rejected. We flood others with information, hoping they will finally see us and approve. In doing so, we make ourselves easy to use. Lesson 2. The trap of fixed identity, adaptive persona. You have probably noticed it. Some people seem to change slightly depending on whom they speak with. Warmer with one colleague, more direct with another, yet they never feel fake. Others remain rigidly themselves in every situation and wonder why they struggle to influence outcomes or protect their energy. The shadow lesson is this. A completely rigid persona makes you easy to categorize and therefore easy to manage or dismiss. In 2026's hybrid workplaces and digital social circles, people who get used are often those whose behavior is entirely predictable across contexts. The always nice coworker gets overloaded with emotional labor. The always blunt friend gets avoided when sensitivity is needed. The always available family member absorbs everyone's crises. This rigidity often stems from a deep fear. If I adapt, I will lose myself or become inauthentic. Yet the psyche's deeper truth is more nuanced. We all contain many parts. The wise person learns to let the right part speak to the right person without betraying core values. Consider a common 2026 scenario. You are in a performance review over Zoom. Your manager speaks in corporate jargon and values efficiency. If you respond with your usual emotional, value-driven style, because that's just who I am, the conversation stalls. If you consciously shift to mirror their language of metrics and outcomes while still holding your truth, the interaction flows where and you protect your position. The shadow side many refuse to see. Clinging to a fixed, authentic self can be a form of self-sabotage. It protects the ego from the discomfort of adaptation, but it leaves you less effective and more vulnerable to those who adapt better. Adaptation is not betrayal. It is psychological flexibility, the ability to meet reality as it is, rather than demanding reality meet your preferred version of you. Lesson 3, the prison of attachment, the principle of detachment. Nothing makes you easier to use than being overly attached to outcomes, relationships, or other people's opinions of you. When you desperately need the promotion, the approval, the relationship to work, or the friendship to last, you become negotiable. Others sense this quiet desperation, even if unspoken, and they leverage it, often unconsciously. In today's economy of uncertainty, with AI reshaping jobs and housing costs pressing on millions in the US and Canada, attachment has grown stronger. We cling harder to what we have because the future feels unstable. This very clinging makes us more exploitable. A relatable example: you stay in a friendship or romantic dynamic that slowly drains you because you are attached to the history, the shared memories, or the fear of being alone in 2026's increasingly isolated digital world. You tolerate small boundary violations, hoping things will improve. Over time, the other person learns they can take more without consequence. The hidden psychological root is fear of loss. The nervous system equates detachment with danger, abandonment, emptiness, or failure. Yet, true detachment is not coldness. It is freedom from the fear of loss. It allows clearer decisions, stronger boundaries, and the ability to walk away when something no longer serves your deeper well-being. Practice gentle detachment by asking in quiet moments, if I did not need this outcome so badly, what would I choose? The answer often reveals how much of your suffering is self-created through attachment, the shadow we avoid. Many of us stay used because being needed makes us feel valuable. Detachment threatens that sense of worth. Facing this truth is painful, but liberating. Lesson 4, the power of the unspoken. Silent leverage and psychological echo. The loudest voices rarely hold the deepest influence. Those who master quiet leverage understand that presence, timing, and strategic silence often speak louder than words. People who get used frequently fill every silence. They explain themselves, justify their feelings, offer solutions too quickly, or rush to fill awkward gaps. In doing so, they reveal their hand and give others time to craft responses that serve them. Silent leverage means creating space where others must act or reveal themselves. It means observing more than performing. In remote meetings or family dynamics, the person who speaks last or not at all often holds unexpected power. Closely tied is the psychological echo, the ability to reflect back on others' deepest needs, fears, or desires without fully exposing your own. When someone feels truly seen, they lower their guard. This can build genuine connection, but it can also be used against you if you do it unconsciously while revealing nothing of yourself. In 2026's social media-saturated world, many of us echo others' opinions or emotions, hoping for reciprocity that rarely comes. We mirror their complaints, their outrage, their ambitions, and end up carrying emotional labor that was never ours. The uncomfortable pattern, oversharing combined with excessive mirroring, often stems from a hidden belief that if I make them feel understood, they will not hurt me. This belief leaves you open to one-sided relationships where you give psychological safety but receive little in return. Mastering these quietly means listening with intention, reflecting selectively, and allowing comfortable silence. You become harder to manipulate because others cannot easily read or predict your next move. Lesson 5, the complexity of ethics, ambiguous morality, and outcome focus. The final shadow lesson may be the hardest to sit with. The world is rarely black and white. Pure idealism without pragmatism often leaves good people used and broken. This does not mean embracing cruelty. It means recognizing that rigid moral absolutism can become another form of self-sabotage. Sometimes, protecting the greater good, your own peace, or long-term outcomes requires choices that feel uncomfortable or not nice. In everyday 2026 life, you know a colleague is taking credit for shared work. Confronting them directly might damage team harmony or your position. Choosing strategic silence or indirect redirection is not weakness. It is pragmatic wisdom that serves your larger goals. The hidden psychological trap many fall into is moral grandstanding, performing goodness publicly while quietly resenting the cost. This resentment builds until you either explode or withdraw, both of which make you easier to sideline. Outcome obsession, focusing relentlessly on what actually serves the desired result rather than winning every moral argument, frees you from being used by those who weaponize guilt, virtue, or shoulds. The shadow we resist admitting. Many of us allow ourselves to be used because it lets us maintain a self-image as the good, kind, or moral person. Facing the pragmatic necessity of sometimes saying no, setting limits, or choosing effectiveness over likability threatens that identity. True wisdom lies in holding both. Deep care for ethics and the pragmatic understanding that perfect morality is a luxury not always afforded in complex human systems. These 5 lessons are not a call to become ruthless. They are an invitation to stop participating unconsciously in your own exploitation. You keep getting used not because you are weak, but because parts of you still believe that excessive openness, rigid authenticity, desperate attachment, constant performance, and moral perfection will finally earn safety and love. In the quiet of these old pages, the truth is gentler and darker. Real safety and real power begin when you become willing to be slightly less known, slightly less attached, slightly more strategic, and far more honest with yourself about the shadows you carry. The ink is still wet on this entry. The choice to move differently remains yours, not with force, but with quiet, persistent awareness.